My name is Laura. I flew in from New York, and I'm here to talk to you about something a little abstract on the surface, but is one of the most impactful and strategic things you can do for your business. You see, AI has flattened output ability, which means we're now in a world with a lot more noise and a lot less clear signals. So, when everyone looks good, who wins? Everything you're going to hear about today, SEO, AEO, performance, even brand, and it's super important. You saw the talk just now. All of that has an upstream problem that very few people talk about, and I think that's a shame. It takes all your customer insight, your behavioral patterns, intuition, your understanding of markets and culture, and it turns them into better output and more growth for your brand and your business. It acts as a bridge between what the company knows, what you know internally to be true, and what the market perceives. This is at the top of everything. Get it right, and everything downstream gets sharper, more coherent. Get it wrong, and things get lost in translation. You're feeding a powerful machine with no direction. So, this is the art of positioning. Close the doors, buckle up. Shut the door. What is positioning? Positioning is like the art of war. It's like doing jiu-jitsu to the market, taking your enemies, aka your competitors' weaknesses and strengths, but making them all look like weaknesses. Fun, right? It's getting inside the minds and hearts of your customers and actually listening to them. It's how you show you're exactly what they need, how you're number one for them. So, more practically, positioning is how you show you're the best or only choice for a specific customer for their specific needs. I need you to remember that. Positioning is context setting, helping your customers understand where you sit in the market so they can finally relax and feel they made the best choice. And for me personally, the North Star is to do this entire persuasion cycle as quickly and impactfully as possible. You know, I'm from New York, I'm quick. I think that's where style comes in. Positioning is what allows some companies to come up from nothing to become globally recognizable. Has anyone here heard of Blue Ribbon Sports? Two people out of the entire room. They used to be a shoe company competing on features, throwing things at a wall, catering to anyone and everyone. That was Nike before Nike. Once they realized they had the unique authority and background to cater specifically to runners and aspiring athletes with their expert knowledge of runners' feet, and gave their customers an amazing identity, made them the hero, that's when they really hit their stride. Pun definitely intended. And the logo didn't hurt either. Positioning is how Volvo was able to stand out with the Beetle, an arguably weird and small car, in a time when large and in charge, gas-guzzling muscle cars were the norm. It captured attention, drove incredible sales, and built a lifetime of brand loyalty for a very specific set of customers. There are so many examples where positioning has been extremely clear about who it is they serve. When Liquid Death came out, there was a lot of talk about how it's such a blatant marketing ploy. I mean, it's just water, right? But at the end of the day, it solved a real issue for some people. You see, some people don't drink. I know that sounds crazy. But it's awkward to be at a party and not have something in your hand, especially if you're a dude, I guess. Liquid Death solved that exact problem. You could hold something cool in your hand, not awkward anymore. So whether you love it or hate it, the advantages of positioning are obvious. Okay, so who the hell am I? A little bit about me. I'm not actually a marketer. I didn't go to design school or even work at a branding agency. But through my background, through animation, transitioning into gaming, UX, UI, and ultimately becoming creative director at various startups and corporate orgs, I'm now a brand strategist with my own positioning firm, DBA. You see, I was the one brought in to lead major rebrands, pivots, and design overhauls. And for the past 14 years, I've worked across tech, sports, luxury and entertainment, and fashion. I've been really lucky to have been working with some incredible properties, some brands that you might recognize, including our hostesses with the mostesses, Flow Ninja, the incredible team that brought us together for this conference. If you hear WebOps, if you hear Webflow Native, We're talking about messaging here. So through so many brand interventions, I started to notice a pattern. Sure, I was brought to work on the UX, to experiment with the visuals. But what I realized that people were really asking for, what they really needed, was a fix to the foundation. I would often get into a project that didn't have positioning done or was glossed over because everyone wants to rush to the visuals, right? I mean, I get it. We're designers, we're visual people. But in those cases, the projects would take forever. They'd be frustrating, they'd go in circles. No one was happy. It's just not a satisfying place to be. So there was not enough consensus and belief in those cases. I realized there were bigger problems to solve before we get to the visuals. Positioning is a strategy, branding is the usage of that strategy, so one has to come before the other. Otherwise, you're just paying for an overpriced paint job. So what do? Let's start with the basics. First, pinpoint your unique value. Keywords, unique. The easiest way to think about this is the marketer's favorite shape, a Venn diagram. What you're generally good at, your superpower, start there. Not what you're trying to actively get better at, what you're currently really, really good at and is kind of undeniable. Most people think they're better at more things than they are, but you have to focus. And for all you polite and shy non-Americans out there, it's not about boasting. You do have to get specific. You do have to pinpoint. I know the reputation. Next, we have to look at what people actually want. What are people actively paying money for? What are clients actually desperately needing and paying for? Isolate that. And lastly, look around at your competitors and your peers. What are they claiming and what are they not? That overlap is your unique positioning. That's your unique value in the world, what we call differentiated value. And it's the same concept whether you're an agency earlier in your career or working at a company in a marketing function. So there's some signs. You're going to feel the negative effects in your day-to-day business if your positioning is not dialed in. If you're constantly explaining yourself over and over again, because it's not immediately clear. If you're often defending your pricing, pricing is one of the most blatant things in your face that people can compare to. So if that gets brought up a lot, and you're defending your pricing a lot, that's a sign. Low close rates, even if you're pretty good at sales or your sales function in your company is good, that's definitely a sign. Even for enterprise sales, those conversations take forever. There's no actions that happen after, there's no immediate need. And it also shows up in the form of creative friction, where every campaign feels like you're starting from scratch, you're starting from zero, and you're only going on vibes. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but major market changes, hint, hint, have an effect on your positioning. Maybe your target audience shifted. Maybe you're going up market to a different tier and you want to serve a different audience. Maybe your business has changed. Maybe it's become more automated or more full service, whichever direction. That all has an impact. So now I want to point out 3 principles that have always existed, and they're just simply getting more amplified because AI makes strong positioning stronger and weak positioning way more obvious. First, don't confuse efficiency with purpose. AI makes things fast. There's incredible white space. It's like utopia. We're in the new internet. But what is worth making in the first place? Speed has always been valuable, but it's no longer defensible. Think about that. You can ship faster, run more tests every day, iterate constantly. I'm not knocking iteration. That's like the backbone of what we all do. But this is what I keep seeing, and I've seen this at agencies, I've seen this at startups, at enterprise teams. Everyone is moving fast with no clear hypothesis. If you're redesigning a homepage for the 5th time and you have no idea what your center is, that's not exactly iteration. That's called throwing spaghetti at the wall. Next principle, assume you are a commodity. David Ogilvy wrote this in the 1980s. This was when the TV was invented. And you could say that was actually the golden age of advertising. All you had to do was buy some ads for TV, sell regular products to regular people watching TV. And even then, this was the baseline concept. No one really, really is thinking about you, right? Let that settle in. No one gives a shit. And they do see you as one of many. It's not pessimistic, it's clarity. If you're starting from this baseline reality and you have an accurate view, you're going to be in a strong position. Otherwise, you're going to be optimizing for the wrong things. So with that reframe, you're already at an advantage. Don't drink your own Kool-Aid and assume why people buy your product. So the goal isn't just to be different. It's to create a perception that is clear, distinct, emotionally sticky, easy to repeat, and the winner is the person who helps their customers stop looking. That reframe will help you a lot. Okay, cue the case study intermission. In the early 2016s, I was working on a suite of apps with Ariana Grande, and this was her old app. Essentially, they had commoditized itself. I mean, here was a iconic pop star with an insane fan base, rabid fan base, and it was a very generic product. It looked like a marketing ploy. I got to work getting as specific as possible. I knew her fans were between the ages of 13 and 25. They loved Disney, they loved anime, and also Ariana wanted to be seen as very cute. Why am I bringing that up? This is very important because it was the artist who needed to promote this product, to promote to her fans, and they would understand if she didn't like it. The manager also had to have some upside. So I wanted it to be useful in various ways. We built a strategy that would hint at album drops, merch drops, and things like that. It launched strong. It hit the charts as the top paid app in entertainment. And ultimately, Ari loved it so much, she promoted it like crazy. It was featured everywhere. It became a very virtuous cycle. We were a really tiny team, but we got this done in under 6 weeks. And everything moves faster because you know where you're going. And that's my point. At the end of the day, these are the exact same product, but it's a completely different experience and reception once you've pinpointed the positioning. Last principle, and maybe this is the most important one. People don't buy products. They buy identities. While technology races forward, human psychology is slow. It evolves really slowly. Think of every purchase as a step towards who a customer wants to become. You're trying to bridge that gap. You're creating an emotional shortcut. If you can create that bridge, it's very powerful. At the end of the day, we tell ourselves we're buying the tool, we're actually buying who we'll be when we use it. And if you work in B2B, you are enabling your ICP, your person who's buying, to become the next version. So think about it that way. When I was working on Yeezy, we knew his audience, his fans, were everyday people who wanted aspiration and a code to portray in the world. His fans always wanted to be the first to get his gear. Often they had to fight bots and resellers to get to the front of the line. We took these ideas and meshed them into a conceptual, lo-fi, brutalist brand system. And I created a new category of experience that blurred the line between e-com, art, distribution, and hype. These are identities that the fans really, really acclimated to. Okay, I want to share my field guide to positioning. Positioning is often advised with outside help because it does require external perspective, right? But I wanted to give you an actionable guide so you can try it for yourself and look at yourself strategically. Remember this? We're basically going to dissect this like a science experiment. There's 3 main phases. First, you need to level set and get real with yourself, with your company. What are the problems that disproportionately affect your business? What is the one thing that would unblock you from scaling? Create a hypothesis document. Put everything in there. If you're not a solo endeavor, you should not silo this process. Like if you have a team, you have to bring people along. Otherwise, you will fail. You will not like yourself for it. Talk to founders. Talk to the teams. Talk to all the functions to get a sense of the scope and appetite. For example, sales. Sales knows which objections are the trickiest. They've heard it again and again. What gives them the no's? Founders have great instinct also because they built from the ground up. But being too close to the problem sometimes creates blind spots. So you have to use questions to tease out the real opportunities. Ask yourself better questions. What do you wish customers knew? What do we do that we've never seen another company do that we think is kind of special? What's another example of failure and the bad stuff? But really talk about it. What causes confusion? Another secret that I like, especially if you're starting a new product or not launching a new service, is to mine Reddit for verbatim questions that customers would ask, right? You're going to be supplying the answers to that through your positioning. Now, determine the interview. With the document you have, take everything and figure out who are the customers that you want to talk to. This is your core ICP, which stands for Ideal Customer Persona. I like to use AI to mine the raw data as well here to see patterns. And then you're going to phase your questions to be really open-ended and encourage sharing. There's a nuance here. You have to ask questions like, what was your experience working with us? Who else were you considering? Tell us about your personal goals. Actually try to understand the person outside of your service and your offering and your product. And then you have to sort the hypothesis document by themes. So think about it as, what are the different characteristics that your ideal customers have in common? What are the outliers? What is the stuff that we definitely believe? What are the open questions we have? The good, the bad, the ugly. Put it all in. The next step is extraction. You have to know that you have a champion within your ICP. That's the person who's doing the purchasing. That's the person whose life will be made easier by buying your product or your service. There's other roles in the mix, though, but those people, their job is to say no, and your job is to figure out how to arm the champion with the things that will persuade them to come along. So here's a real secret. Positioning isn't actually invented, it's found. So you must carefully create the conditions for truth to service. So the way that we like to do this is always interviews, live interviews recorded in person. Even a small handful of interviews with your ICP is 10 times more valuable than hundreds and thousands of surveys. You know why? Because interviews allow deeper questions, unfiltered thoughts. You can always dig deeper. When they pause, you can ask for more. Because you're looking for patterns, not answers. Only after you've done the ICP work should you look at your competitors. And I know this is hard because we're always looking at websites all day long, always looking at what your competitors and your friends are doing. But most people are way too obsessed with their competitors. Focus first on the competitors that were named in the interviews. Who are your clients actually looking at? They might be a very different set of people than what you're looking at. Last step is translation. And this part, if you got through all that, this is another difficult part. You take all the raw interview data and find the patterns. Here, of course, AI is very useful. But determine the top themes that are worth focusing on, that are part of your core message, based on that overlap in the Venn diagram. What customers want, what's not being served in the market right now, and what are your superpowers. Use the exact phrases or words mentioned when you can. In messaging, the way we think about it is, if someone knows your exact problems, you're going to think that they have the exact solution. That's just how it works. It's a great shortcut. So craft messaging based on all of that. Which brings up my next point, testing. You might be tempted to A/B test a page with your new positioning message, but don't do that. Don't do that just yet. The best way to test is live with sales in sales calls. Sit with sales, give them a bunch of messages that you're considering, and you know what happens in sales? They try different things. If the customer doesn't get it the first time, they iterate, they change it live. Only after it works there, and there's a massive improvement, then you can propagate it everywhere. You can do this with certainty. Because positioning and messaging here, it needs to be repeated. You can put it all into this guideline, basically your brand positioning guideline, and that becomes your OS. Keep using it consistently across all surfaces, and this is what I mean. Don't get sick of your own positioning. You're seeing it all day, especially if you're in an org. It's like, hey, are we ever going to change that? If it works, keep it consistent. Don't let boredom get to you. And that's, think about it. Once you've repeated it so much, repeat it more, because maybe at that point, your customers are starting to get it. Look, it's not easy, but it's honest work. Positioning is not just the marketing exercise anymore. It's the brand infrastructure of the future. It's the OS for your entire brand, your entire business, what it stands for and why. It's great for feeding to LLMs. You got to update it once in a while, but the massive amount of work that it takes to get there is definitely worth it. So, AI made execution cheaper, which means, to me, positioning just got way more valuable. Thanks for listening to my talk. My name is Laura. I'm here all day.